Yesterday I told you a little bit about being in the Directors Guild, and today I'm going to talk about the Directors Guild Awards banquet, which happened, I believe it was February of 2012. I want to say it was the 12th, but it might have been like the 24th or something. Generally, they sent me a form for the Directors Guild Awards banquet. I was a little worried because I hadn't yet paid all of my fees, and there's a space on the form for 12 different tickets. You could sign up for 12 tickets. So I called the DGA and I said, hey, can I, am I eligible to come? And they said, yes, you are. And I said, can I actually buy 12 tickets? And they said, yes, you can. So I got a hold of Tom Tang and Ray Kuroga and some people, and I said, why don't we buy a table and go to the Directors Guild Awards banquet? And we arranged to get tuxedos and all that fun stuff. I actually had a tuxedo that was supposed to be, they wanted me to do a cameo in the extra at a party scene, and I was like, I won't have time, I'm directing the movie. And the wardrobe gal, Laura Kiraz, came over and she measured me. And I let her measure me, knowing that I would not be able to do the cameo and knowing that they would buy me a tuxedo. But when you're on set, the time is so expensive that I knew it was cheaper to let her measure me and order me a tuxedo than to argue with them, because then I would be losing setups. So I had a tuxedo to go to the Directors Guild Awards banquet. And my friend Randy Miles, who's an actor in some of the films, came, and we brought Carla Laemmle. Now, Carla is now, as I said, 102. And we were like, I don't know if she can come, and how's she doing? And she was in pretty good spirits, and she really wanted to come. So I called the DGA again, and I said, I don't want to ask for special favors, but, we're bringing Carla Laemmle. And they're kind of like, oh, who's that? I was like, she's 102, she's a silent movie star. And they're like, what? I was like, yeah, we're bringing a silent movie star. And they were like, okay. And I said, could we just get like a table near the entrance so she doesn't have to walk a very long way? It doesn't have to be up front or anything. We're not asking for that. We just want a table kind of closer to the entrance, and we made sure where the limos could come in and stuff. So we went, and we're at the Directors Guild Awards banquet. Here's what happened at the Directors Guild Awards banquet. We went in, had a drink, lots of people were there, and mostly ignoring us because we weren't really hoi polloi, hotshot filmmakers. But that's okay. A lot of people there weren't. There was about 1,600 people there, I think. And but our publicist was there, and we had a photographer. He was a really good photographer. And we went off and, introduced some people to Carla Laemmle. And the word got around the room that Carla Laemmle was there. And so George Clooney wanted to meet Carla Laemmle. And Kathy Bates wanted to meet Carla Laemmle. And Martin Scorsese wanted to meet Carla Laemmle. And all of that happened. And they all took pictures with her. And Helen Mirren was there, and she met Carla Laemmle, and many other people. So it was a really wonderful night. And they served us dinner. It was a very wonderful dinner. We had wonderful conversation. And then they handed out all the Directors Guild Awards, which fortunately doesn't take too long. I mean, the whole thing takes maybe an hour. Probably didn't even run that long. But the winner this year was Michael Hazanavicius, who was the director of the silent movie The Artist. And two things about that film. One is Brian Felber, who is in Mansion of Blood, plays the clapper loader in The Artist. And so I knew a little bit about the film before it came out. And it also won Best Picture, so now Brian is in a Best Picture movie. And 100 years from now, people will be seeing him on screen. So I'm very thrilled for him. And so it's at the end of the evening, and some people come over and say, the people on The Artist are in the green room, and they want to meet Carla Laemmle because, they made a silent movie, and she's a silent movie star. So we all got up and went into the green room behind the stage, and there was Michael Hazanavicius and Antoine de Cosette, who's the producer. He's a wonderfully nice man, and James Cromwell, who's one of the butlers, and Jean Dujardin, and Bernice Bugeaud. Jean Dujardin was wonderful. I talked to him, and Randy Miles was pretty shy, and I said, "Oh, you got to meet Randy." So I introduced them, and Jean was like making jokes to Randy about, well, how difficult can it be to get, nominated for an acting award because it's a silent movie, You didn't have to memorize any lines. He was really nice, really put everybody at ease. And it turns out that Antoine de Cosette, I hope I'm saying his name right, I'm probably not, and I apologize, but he's a huge horror film fan, and he knows who Carla Laemmle is, and he wants to see Mansion of Blood. And, at this point in time, they hadn't won for Best Picture, but they just won Best Director at the DGA. That was a little bit surreal. I said, okay, I'll be glad to bring you to Mansion of Blood once it's available for viewing. And he gave me his card. And then he said, I'm a big horror film fan. I just did a remake of Maniac starring Elijah Wood. And I was like, you mean Bill Lustig's film, Maniac? You did a remake of that? He's like, yeah. I said, I worked on that film. I worked on Bill Lustig's Maniac at Photochem. So it's a very small world. And so we had a very wonderful evening. One of the things that happened that evening had to do with George Clooney. I didn't talk to George personally. I worked on the film, I think it's Return of the Killer Tomatoes. I think it was Revenge of the Killer Tomatoes when they shot it, and I think they made it Return of the Killer Tomatoes. And, which was a wonderful film, and it starred John Astin, who I think is wonderful. And so this is about 1989 or so, and I'm working on this film at Photochem, and it's Foursquare Productions. They're down in San Diego, and they're making a sequel to, Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, and they're having great fun with it. And George Clooney is in that movie. George Clooney is in Return of the Killer Tomatoes, and not only is he in it, but he doesn't even play the lead. He plays the best friend. He plays the sidekick pizza delivery guy, best friend of the hero, who is played by the actor Anthony Stark, Tony Stark, the same name as Iron Man. I will never forget Anthony Stark was the star of Return of the Killer Tomatoes. But we're running dailies at the lab. They used to print dailies, and they would run them. So we got to see everything. We not only saw the finished films, but we saw the work prints, the different edits, and also all the raw dailies, which is a wonderful way to learn about filmmaking. And in one of these sequences, as often happens, even more so now than then, while the camera's running, the director, something's not right, and the director starts giving people direction. And they just don't yell cut because they're in a big hurry, and they just say, oh, it'll take a second, and I'll do this. And then instead of stopping and reslating, we'll just roll the camera, and then I'll run and give them the note and run out. So this is going on, and George Clooney is playing with this prop on set while this is going on, and it's like this pizza with a squid on it and like M&Ms or something, and he's screwing with it, just being like a bit of a goof. And I remember thinking, oh no, don't do that, it's, you're screwing it up, the continuity, that's a hot set, you shouldn't do that, it won't match. And then I thought, oh my god, this is Return of the Killer Tomatoes, who cares about continuity? And that's 1989. And so now it's 2012, and I'm standing on the Directors Guild Awards banquet floor, and there's George Clooney. He's like over there, and he's talking to Carla Laemmle, and all I could think about is how he was messing with that prop on, Return of the Killer Tomatoes. And so I didn't go up and talk to him because I didn't know how to say anything other than the thing he hears all the time, and I didn't want to go and try and remind him about maybe we met sometime and all that. It just doesn't make any sense. And but it was cool to see him, and he was standing in this ballroom, and he was very nice to everybody. So I'm like looking at him, and I'm looking at Helen Mirren, and I'm looking at Martin Scorsese, and I'm there with all my friends. And then I turn around, and standing in front of me is probably one of the worst film directors on planet Earth. And I will not tell you his name or anything about him. I won't even tell you if it's a him or a her. But I'm not, the world's greatest director. I'm trying my best. But this guy, or this girl, gave up a long time ago. And it's just like a slap in the face to me. And I look over at George Clooney, and I look back at this director guy who's ignoring me, or she's ignoring me. And though we've been introduced several times. And I actually did script coverage on this person's script once upon a time, long ago. And I'll tell you about script coverage later, but I suddenly realized they're all standing on the same floor, and we're all looking for our next job, and there really is no making it in Hollywood. You're just all there trying to do your work. And there's George Clooney, and there's this other director, and there's me and all my friends, and we're all just standing on the same floor in the same ballroom, and we're all wearing tuxedos. And it's just a very odd experience. Because, what the hell am I doing there? I gave up on Hollywood as far as the Hollywood part of Hollywood a long time ago. And I decided I would just go off and make the films that I was going to make myself. And I never thought that I would be in the Directors Guild, or that I would be working on studio pictures, or that I would be directing Gary Busey, or anything like that. And so it's a very odd experience to be kind of dragged into that sort of thing when you've deliberately walked away and said, I'm just going to go off and make my little movies by myself and do the things I want to do with this new technology that makes it a little bit more affordable than it used to be, and people that care a little bit more about filmmaking than they do about money. And if there's anything that kind of defines the people I work with, is obviously we care about money. You got to get the mortgage paid and the lights on and pay the rent and get gas for the car and all that stuff. But the money is not the most important thing. For us, the filmmaking is the most important thing. And that's why we're able to do what we do. And I'll talk about my philosophy of filmmaking a little bit later. I think I'm going to have to cut this into 2 pieces. But that was my experience at the Directors Guild Awards banquet. And Carla had a wonderful time. And I have to tell you, the last little bit, as we got up to leave, she was standing there and they were playing music and her feet were tapping. And this very handsome young waiter came by, and he had a very attractive rear end. And she just looked at it and stared at it. And I thought, good for you, Carla. You're 102 and you're looking at the hot guys. And that is a story about Hollywood. And it's all true. And I don't even think I insulted anybody. I'm going to try and be really honest with these videos. We'll see where that goes. I hope you're really enjoying this. I got a couple of good responses from some friends already. So it's already worthwhile. So I'm very, very happy about that. And I will see you again on Hey Mike, my video channel on YouTube.